We've got one man now with us, though, who has shunned the bright lights of both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. He's headed down to the East Coast, a good 2-hour drive from here, and he's set up the Khaleej Football Academy down in Khorfakkan. It is Sebastian Delfi, former Australian professional footballer. Sebastian, welcome to our humble abode.
Thank you for having me.
It's brilliant to have you in, pal, and it's great. We met last week, and so passionate are you about spreading the word of football, the beautiful game, across not just this country but across the region. However, having said that, and I mean this with the greatest of respects to Khorfakkan, it is a footballing outpost. It's a bit of a backwater. I mean, you were telling me population of what?
It's roughly between 30 to 40,000.
So how the heck do you find yourself, my friend, in Khorfakkan?
Well, with all thanks to God, what I've managed to do there. One day I went to Khorfakkan and I was there at night time and I saw kids playing with no shoes. They were just playing football, and there's so many kids. And it was a summer, and summer there is really humid, so humid. As soon as you just walk outside, you're soaking wet. And I was just watching. I'm like, where are these kids' shoes? I'm searching around the academy. There's nothing here, and I'm like, no, I need to start something here. And obviously, from my own background, being a former professional footballer and being in academies my whole life, playing football in Europe, America, and everywhere. And I told my father, I was like, I was going to go back to Dubai and going to do something here. And then my father's like, look, these kids, I think they need you. And I'm like, I got to sit and think about this. And I'm like, it's either Dubai or I start from zero in Khorfakkan in a small town. And I literally got to, I got to do everything.
You'd landed in the country. You were doing your kind of due diligence. You were travelling.
Yeah.
I can tell that you just eat, breathe, and kind of live football.
Yeah.
So there you are down in Khorfakkan. You're watching some kids train in the evening.
Yeah.
And right there and then you're like, you know what? Forget Dubai. I'm going to move. And you have moved down to Khorfakkan.
Yes.
You live there, you reside there, and
Yeah.
you've set up the academy. Talk to us a little bit about what the academy kind of is, what it does, and what the kind of aim of it is.
Yeah, well, my academy, with all thanks to God, it's one of a kind. I mean, there's no one doing what I'm doing on the east coast of the UAE. I'm the first football academy from the UAE East Coast to attend the YFL 2 years in a row. I'm the first football academy from the UAE East Coast to go to the Mina Cup, both the Mina Cup, Mini Mina, and the Mina Futsal. I'm the first football academy from the UAE East Coast assigned to Noon, Namshi, Umbro Middle East, and I just signed a new partnership with Puma Middle East now for 2025-2026. So with all thanks to God, I kind of understand my purpose there. I just let I'm a man of few words. I just let my
Absolutely.
I'm all action. So.
And it's important because when I always say this to a lot of people, I've got my gripes about where the game should be at and could be at. I appreciate it is changing. There's a lot of people like yourself who are kind of working tirelessly to bring the standards up across the board. It's great to hear from someone though who's gone to, as I say, I'll say it again, a bit of an outpost. Is the talent there? Is it worth your while, or am I maybe getting ahead of myself? For you, is it just about introducing kids to the game?
I'll answer that in a certain way. During my time becoming a footballer, my father was a professional footballer. There was a process for me becoming this. You have to be so unique. There's got to be something in you that constantly drives you. Intrinsic motivation that just separates you from 1,000 kids. I played football in Serbia for a couple of years, and there's got thousands of players there. But why do I have to come from Australia? Why does he have to pick me when he's already got Division 3, Division 2? Their Division 2 is so high as well. Division 1, then the Premier League. So in Khorfakkan, I saw the boys. They have the passion. They didn't have what it's not up to the standards, I'll say, but I believe in my own capabilities and I can bring it up because I've already been I was one of the youngest in Australia to get a scholarship with Bayern Munich when I was 12 years old. So I've already achieved quite a bit under my belt, and without me doing much talking, I'm just going to do my actions.
Yeah, it's important to before we kind of get into further detail about what you're offering down in Khorfakkan. A little bit more about yourself. You said there.
Sure.
I'd be sticking that on my Instagram bio. Youngest Aussie
one
to
of the
sign,
youngest,
one of the youngest, 12 years of age. What did that look like? Did that mean you moving over to Bavaria, moving over to Munich?
Yeah, so I was one of the youngest to get a scholarship. So pretty much my father made a DVD back in the day to send to Hertha Berlin and Bayern Munich. They both said come. They both wanted me. I liked Bayern Munich a little bit more. They offered the scholarship. So went back to Australia. FIFA said that you need to move with your parents. It was a little bit difficult, so we said okay. So I came back to Australia, and then again got scouted by a FIFA agent at the time, who wanted me to come to Crvena Zvezda, Barca, and Valencia or Real Madrid at the time. And then...
You're 12 years of age?
No, this was 15 years.
Okay.
So 12 years was Bayern and Hertha Berlin. So played there. That was one of the best experiences of my life, because I got to train next to Oliver Kahn, Michael Ballack at the time. And it was very natural. And one of my best stories that I tell my students, I didn't even know who I was walking down with at the time. In the Bayern Munich facility, obviously you're not allowed in because paparazzi and all that's outside. I went inside and I got changed in my clothes and I was walking down. I saw this old man just walking down with me. I had no idea. I thought, he had GM written on his Bayern Munich jacket. And my father was waiting with a handy cam, and he's like, Mr. Muller, can you take a photo with my son? I'm looking around like, I have no idea Muller. Like, I'm 12 years old. Gerd Muller, 1974. I haven't even done my research there. And I took a photo with him, and my dad showed me, like, this is who you just took a photo with. I'm like, oh, wow.
Wow.
But, going back to what I was saying, there was a process back in the day becoming a footballer. I had to physically go to the video shop, get a video of Diego Maradona, bring it back home. But now, like, this generation is a little bit more kind of laid back, easy. There was a process, and that process does a toll on your brain. It makes you think about it. It makes you, get off, go to the shop, get this thing on Maradona, get this thing on Pele, Beckham, Harry Kewell, Stephen G, whatever I was watching at the time. I watched it all when I was 14, 15. I was doing things that kids weren't doing at the time, which is why I was separated from other boys. To train that to students, especially on the East Coast of UAE, is impossible. It has to come from them. And I told the boys, I can't instill this in you. It has to come from you. I can get you to the YFL, to the Mina, to wherever you want. But at the end of the day, you have to be on the pitch. I can't play for you. You got to do it. It's all on you. But, these days, as I said, the process back then was much harder. The academies we were going to, it was more strict, more disciplined, heavy consequences. If you didn't come to training, bro, pack your bags, go home. Nowadays, we're too laid back. It's too easy. My coach would be like, you're slacking on the boys, man. You got to be harder on the boys, But this is the time we're living in now, Chris.
It is. We talked about it, Carl, innit? Social media, the age of social media. And
the thing that I want to touch on is that, you'd always hear the great Sir Alex Ferguson speak. And the question I want to ask you is, what do you look for in a player? Because he always believed he would always rather prefer choosing a player that comes from a poorer background, because he's kind of more desperate to make it in football, and he knows that he'll get that kid's commitment. What is it that you look for in a young player, and what is the certain things he needs to have before you turn around and go, you know what, this guy can kind of go to the next level? Yeah,
well, like, every age is obviously different, right? And every class that I teach, I've made my own system called the Zidanes, Ronaldos, and Messis. This is my own system of like beginners, intermediates, and advanced. So every class that I have, they got to do their own, like,
Who's the beginner there? Zidane?
No.
Or Messi? I love this. Who's the beginner there? You're setting these kids up for
Zidanes are the beginner.
You've got high standards, mate.
Intermediates are the Ronaldos, and the advanced is the Messi.
I take it you're a Messi fan then.
Yes, because I love Diego Maradona, Argentina, Batistuta. Like, I'm just mad for Argentina. But every age, every class does their own, like, they got to know the fundamentals of skills at this age. Okay, it's all about fun, enjoying. The Ronaldos, you got to... now it's starting to get a little bit more serious, not too serious. And my Messi's there, I'm super serious with them. Like, you want to be a footballer? Leave the jokes outside the pitch. You step on this football pitch and you give all your attention to me. That's it.
You were saying off air that the age range of the kids that you're coaching, between 5 and 15. Now, I can't imagine Khorfakkan has enough footballers to fill, you know where I'm going with this, the age categories. So is it a real hodgepodge? Have you got maybe 7 or 8 5-year-olds, 6 or 7 6-year-olds? How do you fashion it? How do you put together an academy when you've got obviously a lot of constraints there?
Well, with all thanks to God, everything's in God's hand. I'm just doing it. My youngest boys, like, I've got about 20 to 25 boys in age 5 to 7.
Wow.
I got about 50 boys age from 9 to 12, and another 50 boys in the
Older
the
category.
older category. So, and then pre-season, like, you know, players from like the Khorfakkan FC or Etihad Kalba, any of like the pro clubs, they'll come do pre-season with me. I get them ready. Doesn't matter, adults or, you know, boys
Kids.
that are 18, 19, want to, you know, try to make it to the next level.
And I think it's important to point this out. Yes, it's great. You've got an academy. You're giving boys a chance, structured as well. You've got your various categories. The Zidane's for beginners, still blows my mind. Ronnie's and then Messi's. The other thing you've touched upon that I think is worth pointing out, you're also ingraining that competitive spirit in them as well, because you're taking them up to Dubai every weekend from Khorfakkan to play in the YFL.
Yeah, we're the only football academy that does this on the east coast of the UAE. You know, I trust my boys. I trust, obviously, my capabilities in training the boys. So I know if the boys listen, they focus, they say, yes, coach, God willing, coach. That's all I need. You know, they just listen to what I say and they win. Like last two games. On Sunday, they won both their games. They're under 11s, my under 14s, they won both their games. You know, academies here have over 1,000 students. I only have 100 boys. So I said to the boys, look, you guys don't understand that they have so many boys to choose from. I got nothing to choose from. So it all depends on development, on how I develop you boys and what you guys do there. You know, you show what the academy is about. It's because of you boys. You know, my academy is where it is. As long as you listen and you do the hard work, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
It is a bit of a one-man band with you down there. Are you the bus driver as well, Seth?
No.
Have you got a coach driver there? I mean, how do the boys...
No, I've got assistant coaches, with all thanks to God, which is good. You know, but I have my way of doing things because, as I said, you know, playing football in Europe, and then I made my own professional debut in Serbia when I was 18. So, you know, I've been through the hard yards. I know how to do it. And I'm just trying to do what my father did for me for these boys.
I've got it. Obviously, we're on radio, so no one can see you. You look, I'll be honest, Seb, as if you could still be playing. You look young enough to be Carl's son. Maybe not mine, maybe my brother, but Carl's son for sure.
Easy, Tiger. Easy.
Yeah, being a bit harsh on you there, Carl. Yeah. But it looks like you could still be playing. So what kind of curtailed the footballing career? Why are you at this juncture of your kind of professional career?
I had a really bad injury, stress fracture in my knee until this day. Last week, when the day you saw me, I was in hospital. I had painkillers because my knee, I can't bend it to a certain point. I have trouble bending it in a certain way. When I play with the boys, I do all my skills. I do my Maradona juggles, whatever, hold the ball in my head. And the boys are like, they think there's nothing wrong with me. They have no idea how much pain. I went to the hospital twice in Fujairah just to put painkillers. I can't, like, I got to go through a process before I play. You know, I occasionally play with, you know, some of the fathers. They always invite me. But I'm just only going to, you know, play a bit, you know, pass, move. I do a little bit where I tend to dribble and, you know, I get a bit
carried away.
Yeah, and some friends here in Dubai, they always say, come play here, you know, but, you know, I can't, man. It really hurts. I had a stress fracture operated in Sydney, so I ended my career in Iran. After Serbia, I went to Los Angeles. After Los Angeles, went to Iran, and I couldn't take the pain anymore.
That is a heck of a career.
But
Serbia to US to Iran. There's not many people taking that kind of career moves. How was Iran as a footballing nation?
Very strong. Like I said to the boys haven't seen, but football's a poor man's sport, bro. It's not a rich man's sport. Yeah. And if you see the way they play football, man, any one of them can be Messi's.
But they've been a very successful nation.
Very good,
they qualify for every World Cup.
Well,
so
that's fourth in a row, yeah.
Exactly. They're doing something right down there.
They are.
And with all thanks to God, Australia's, you know, starting to build up as well now, which is great. You know, the youth system, there's grassroots now.
Well, maybe touch on that, because I'm going to go to a quick break. Stay where you are,
sure.
Seb. It's great to have you in. Sebastian Delfi's in with us, up from Khorfakkan this evening with us. More from us in a couple of minutes. Got any questions for Seb? Get them in. 4001, please. Coming back to the show, it's myself, Chris McCarty, Carl Van Roosevelt. We're joined in studio this evening by the former Aussie professional footballer Sebastian Delfi. He is now in these parts, and he's down in Khorfakkan, that footballing hotbed that we're learning it actually is. All jokes aside, a lot going on down there. The Khaleej Football Academy is Sebastian's little baby, and you're doing wonders with it. And, you know, we were just talking during that commercial break, Seb, about your love of the game. What is the aim of the Khaleej Football Academy? I mean, you talked about giving structure to the kids already there. What is the aspirations for it in the kind of long term?
Simply, it's just creating the future of all youth footballers to play at the highest level. That's it, nice and simple. Simplicity is the key, man. That's all I want to do, create the opportunities and pathways for these boys, same way like my father did for me. I want to do it for these boys, every single one of these boys.
We speak a lot to people like Chris Brown, of course, who's been here for over 20 years. He's a man that's kind of trying to help shape the future, a bit like yourself and many other coaches who listen to this show. what more needs to be done? I constantly, when I do my little litmus test, I continuously hear there needs to be a little bit more structure from the very top to make sure that everyone is kind of aware of the parameters, aware of the pathways. A little bit more of a scouting network would help, just to shine the spotlight on the good kids that you have and maybe Chris has and all the other coaches. From your side of things, what else?
Pretty much you hit the nail on the head with the scouting, because, you know, like I gave you the example of my father having to send DVDs and for us having to go from Australia to Germany, right? Like scouting is the biggest thing. That's what shows the player, you know, or else if there's no scouting, how is the kid going to, you know, end up in, you know, the team, you know? So we need definitely more of that. And with all thanks to God, you know, as you said, the Mina Cup or the YFL, these are great platforms. The thing that's needed for these is more scouts, as you said, scouts. That's what you need, so they can see, okay, you're good enough. That after the game, maybe you talk with the player. All right, you know, get you a trial to somewhere. Australia was ahead of this. Like Australia, that's what they do in Australia nowadays. You know, for boys to go to like America, start college, have an education, and play football. You know, there's scouts that are doing that. Not much European scouts, because I think they've understood that with Australia, I think the pathway is to Asia, not really Europe. Like the time when I went to play football in Europe when I was 2010, when I signed my 2011 when I signed my professional football contract with FK Proleta Novi Sad, I was like, there's a low percentage of Australians back then, you know, going to Europe and actually making it and playing football. But I think the pathway for Australia is Asia, and same here in the UAE, it is Asia.
We are seeing a lot of Aussies make the move over to Asia. I remember Trent Salisbury, the big centre half who we've had on the show, good player, spent a lot of time over there. In terms of Aussie football, a lot of Aussies live in this country, so it would be remiss of me not to ask Tony Popovic, who won the AFC Champions League with Sydney Wanderers. I remember it well back in 2013, I think it was, when they had success. He's taken the top job. Heard from Ange Postecoglou in recent weeks saying that he wishes them all the very best, that he reckons Pop will get it right. From what you see, you and I had a conversation last week, there's no Mark Vidukas anymore, there's no Harry Kewells, Mark Brescianos, Brett Emertons, Lucas Neal. You're getting misty-eyed, me running through all of these legendary Socceroo players. Where is the game at down under at the minute?
Down under. You know, like you said, like the Harry Kewells and Mark Vidukas, Lucas Neals, Tim Cahills, man, like, man, like the list just goes on. Marshall, like this goes back to what I said about that generation and that football, the process, Chris. It's the process, man.
So it's not, but it amazes me. You would think with that level of quality, Goose Hiddink, of course, remember famously taking you guys to the last 16 in 2010, that you guys would kick on. I continuously hear that rugby union's in the doldrums in Australia, that football and soccer is getting eyeballs. So where's the talent pool if the league and football itself is getting those eyeballs?
Man, the talent, like you said, it's got to be, you know, obviously there's a lot of good standout players in the Premier Leagues in like Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. You know, going back to scouting, you just need, you know, more people to attend these games, look at the matches. Academies are, you know, definitely ahead of their time. I remember when I was in the academy in Sydney, it was already 20 years old by the time I was 8 years old. You know, academies are just starting here. But, you know, definitely more scouting this is what we need. It's key to boys becoming a professional football player. You know, that's the next step needed. Or else if you play for a club, the coach is only invested in winning on the weekends. He's not gonna take you to wherever. It's the scouts or the academies. You know, that's the next step. You know,
just touching on academies, and I'm purely speaking in the UAE. Do you think there's enough criteria for these academies? And what I mean by that is, without being disrespectful, I just kind of find that there's so many people coming over here and all of a sudden they go to football academy. You know, they get a piece of grass, or they hire a bit of Arabian Ranchers pitch on a Saturday afternoon, and all of a sudden they now qualified to run an academy. Do you think that there should be a criteria for the academies, and is there enough quality academies?
The criteria, 100%. And all the football academies here are really standout academies. I can't really say anyone does not, you know. It's just the criteria. I would say would be the coaching. That's the thing, getting good coaches, making sure they're doing the job, and putting quality into the work, not really caring much about the money. You know, unfortunately, these days it's more of a business, you know.
And winning.
Winning. Yeah.
again, I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, but it was fascinating being at the coaches forum on Friday, and we had Scott Sellers who played over 500 games at the top level. He was part of the academy at Man City. He was head of the academy at Manchester City under some good men above him, of course, and now he's sporting director at Al Jazeera. And he said it brilliantly. At youth level, winning is not the be-all and end-all. You're there to improve individuals. You're there to improve individuals as footballers, but you're there to improve them as human beings as well. Forget winning. And I can't help but thinking, again, I've got to state this, not tarring everyone with the same brush, and if you're listening, you'll know who you are, but to you coaches, winning at the weekend is everything because it helps the bottom line. Mums and dads who want their son or maybe even daughter to go on and play professionally, if they're winning, it feeds the beast. They think, oh, my son and daughter is part of a successful team. This is all part of the narrative to maybe one day get them professional win. It's not about that at all at youth level. It's about improving them.
Yeah, definitely. It's not. It's individual. At the end of the day, like you want to, go play in Europe. You're not going to take your whole team with you. The coach isn't going to pick 10 players. They're going to pick one player. When I went to Serbia, we went with 10 Australian boys, 10 youth, same age as me. We went and trialled with Proletar Novi Sad, and after 2 weeks of trials, international games, we had 2 international games in Stara Pazova. It's like the headquarters in Serbia. I was the only one picked out of everyone, and I had to say bye to all my friends. It's individual. I said this to the boys, their last session. I said, you boys are here. I'm going to create the pathway for you. It's individual at the end of the day. Don't worry. Yeah, and don't worry who comes to training, who doesn't come to training, what happens on the match day. You win, you draw, you lose. You boys are always winners under my belt. But this is for your future. Yeah. This is your future. No one else, just you. And only you can do it.
Right, anyone listening to this, appreciate, and someone said, youth level is not understood by majority of the clubs. They make selections to win that disregards the other players. That's a great message that's just literally come in this second, and that's what we're saying. And I appreciate, again, I just want to reiterate, because there might be some that are kind of in the car losing their minds right now, thinking, I'm not like that, and I appreciate it's not everyone. But let's call a spade a spade. There are those out there that care about ensuring they can shake the mum and dad's hands at the end of 90 minutes going, yeah, we won again. I'm brilliant. You'll keep your subs with me next year. And that's it. That's a business. I hold my hands up and say, fair play to you if that's what it is that motivates you, but don't try and pull the wool over people's eyes, right? There will be those that are in it for the business side of things, and there are those in it to improve the individuals. It's giving them structure, it's making it fun, it's helping them grow as a human being, because I don't know the stats, but 0.0001% will go on and become professional. We all are aware of that, but it's very difficult to convince a father or a mother who's maybe living vicariously through their child that this is the route to riches. So I commend the work that you're doing. Sorry, Carl.
No, that's another thing I want to touch on. That, do you think coaches or heads of these academies are honest enough with kids? Because I often get chirped by parents where I just turn around and go, I can tell you now, Chris McCarty's not going to be a professional rugby player. And they're like, no, he's going to. His coaches told me this. His coaches told me that.
Trust me.
And I'm like, and I'm using that as an extreme example. And I just kind of things that often we just look at. Kids participating in sport is massively important, and to me, I agree with you. It's not all about winning. It's improving a person, not just as a player, but as a human being. But there gets a level in any kid's life where it's kind of like, okay, I can go to that next level, or I kind of got to stay on this level. And I just sometimes feel, and I want to ask your opinion on this, that the coaches are often just not often not honest enough with these kids, where they kind of make them believe, and the kid gets to the age of 18 or 16 and they're massively disappointed.
The thing is with that, the bigger your academy, it's hard for quality control. Like with me, because my academy is like, I'm there all the time and I'm really strict on the boys. Like they know how strict I am and no one's going to go out of line. And I want the boys to get to the next level, and I know how it's done. Like I said to the boys, I've already done it once myself. You want to follow in coach's footsteps? Okay, cool. But it's not going to be easy. And I told them, the one thing with that is, the one thing that I think that needs to change besides, that, like I said before, football is a poor man's sport, not a rich man's sport. Unfortunately, football is getting more and more expensive every year. Affordability, bro. Affordability.
Yeah.
It has to be affordable. It can't be a poor man's sport and not affordable to everyone. If you make it more affordable, look how many more football players will come.
Very fair point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many football players will come? You know what I mean? And really good, talented foot. And you see a player, like when you're a good coach, from the first touch, you know what kind of player he's going to be. You know his position. You already know what he's good at, what he's bad at, and what you can work on as a coach. Make him a good player. And that's the difference right there. But like I said before, the bigger the academy, I think it's harder to manage the quality.
There is that.
You know?
I agree with that. You've got to rely then on bringing in more coaches and keeping those standards high. Listen, appreciate it's a bit of a hard sell for maybe many of our listeners who reside here in Dubai, but they want to know more about your academy, what you're doing down in Khorfakkan. They want to learn more about maybe some of your methods, etc. Where are you sending people to, Seb?
Follow us on Instagram, Khaleej Football, or you can follow me on Sebastian Delfi. You can follow the journey of the students. You know, they're coming down to Dubai every weekend. We started doing, vlog episodes every week.
It.
You know, because I really need to put the students onto the, this is the generation we live in. It's all social media. So I understand I've got to, put the students on every time, show them. And this is
again,
the thing. So
you're improving other skills as well. And media is part of that. Listen, I'm sat here for goodness sake, I was a failed footballer, but the outlet of media allowed me to stay so passionate about what I love. So I'm loving the fact that you're giving them a bit of exposure to the media side of things as well. And you're doing a great job, Seb.
Thank you.
Loving the fact that you've come all the way up from Khorfakkan. I offered, I'm going to embarrass you here, I offered you, said, just pop on Zoom. It's a long way to come from Khorfakkan. You said, I'm not having a jot of it. I'll be there in person. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I've just got one more question for him before we let him go. The $1 million question. We are both Man United fans. You're in charge for a week of Man United. What do you change?
Everything.
I reserve.
We've only got 30 seconds.
I reserve my right for this to comment on
Silence.
I'm a mad Barca fan and Boca Juniors fan.
You've got the two clubs that are going places. You've got the club that's on the way down. Change everything is what you do, Seb. Listen, bless you, my man. Don't be a stranger. Great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The voice there of Sebastian Delfi. Do check it out. Khaleej Football Academy, as Seb says, on Instagram, across social media. Just have a look at what they're doing. It's great that there are places. Khorfakkan, of course, an hour, 2 hours from here, doing some great things in the beautiful game. Right, more from us in a couple of minutes. We've got to start building up to the biggie from a professional point of view. Seb's getting down that road for it. He's got 2 hours and 24 minutes to get home for the big one tonight. It's at the Bernabeu. It is Real Madrid against Arsenal. We'll build up to it when we come back.
Your ARN News.